So thanks everybody. It's great to be presenting here. So as my title says, I'm going to present outsourcing IT automation efforts. My presentation may be a little bit different than I think most of the speakers, because I'm sort of on the side of the person who decides to make these outsourcing decisions. I work with a lot of IT service providers, also small businesses of all kinds, who are trying to decide whether they need to outsource the development efforts they have going on, and to what extent. I work with startups of all ages, including some that have been around for decades. So it's been it's always an interesting way to view the ecosystem. So as Andre mentioned at the beginning of this, for those who heard, people are making a lot of mistakes when it comes to outsourcing. I know that because I think I've made all of them at least once, and some of them more than once. So it's definitely. I hope that people are able to learn some from my presentation. And without further ado, I will jump right to it. Okay. So my experience is I have more than a dozen outsourcing attempts, multiple companies. Most have been successful. Some have not been as successful. I've been doing this as a career for over 30 years, and my first outsourcing attempts were done as so within the I'm going to leave it this. So sorry, everybody. My first attempts in the late 90s, and it's with some success, some not success. One of the most important outsourcing decisions to make is onshore, nearshore, or offshore. Nearshore being, of course, close by, but not for people who speak the same language, sort of communications. Offshore might be in geographies farther away. Ways and for both IT services.
Can you hear me, Daniel?
Sorry. Moving on.
Yeah, so it looks like your screen was freezing. Daniel, can you hear me?
The opportunities for us to do to make the outsourcing arrangement work. We're going to go through provider. So reasons for outsourcing. Reason number one, it's cheaper. Well, I mean, that's a reason. I think that's the reason people tend to jump to, but I'm not really sure that that's the best reason. The reason that I think I find that most people sourcing as a sources to do the work, just given the value from the effort to try to it doesn't a bunch of people sort of in town, set up desks for them or have them join the 401k or all of that. They just need results for a lower price point with less of a commitment than what hiring somebody would require. And the next reason for outsourcing might be it improves capabilities. Perhaps the company doesn't have these capabilities that they want to outsource on staff, and they don't want to hire developers to learn how to do this, or they don't want their programming their director of development to have to manage people who who do this kind of work. He doesn't maybe have those skills, and it may not be what this company is looking for. So some of the opportunities for outsourcing, things that we see. One is DevOps. So that may mean that there's a report that needs to be developed, or several different data sources that need to be compared to produce reports. A lot of different automation efforts to help the financial systems or the sales systems run. There's nobody to do this work. It's all very task-based work. It's very project-based work, and the current development team simply can't get it on the roadmap to do it. So this is something that is oftentimes looked at as an outsourcing opportunity for the lower costs, and just because it may make the company more capable overall to be able to have somebody else in some other place doing this work rather than being done on site or in the company, within the company. Next option is just side projects. Again, similar to DevOps, just there's this project that needs to happen. We need to develop an app to do this one thing for this one group. It's definitely worth the money to do it. We're really excited about this opportunity, but we can't afford to do it with our existing team. They're all swamped with work anyway. They're way behind on their efforts. So what can we do to make this happen? So outsourcing is a natural choice there. General value adds. So we have our roadmap. Our roadmap's great. We want to really do all these things, but we could do just so much more if we had some extra hands to help us with some of these different things. We're looking for someone to help us with these pieces, and our team can't do it. Again, that's always the common theme, is that it's a great idea to do it, but the time just isn't there. And finally, unavailable skill sets. This really needs to be written in Python. We don't have a Python programmer. This needs to be written in PowerShell. We're a Linux shop. Whatever that may be, we find that these are opportunities for outsourcing. Selecting an outsourcing provider. So I think one of the most important decisions that someone has to make is whether I put U.S. address, whatever country you may have there. Is it going to be a local provider, or is it going to be a true outsourcing provider? That is, I'm going to call somebody in some other country, and I'm going to say, let's come up with an arrangement to do this development work there. You can pay for. We'll pay you in your currency. We'll send the money across a wire to your bank, or are you going to do it to somebody with a U.S. address? That is to say, we know that this work's going to be outsourced to some foreign locale, but we're going to pay a company that's maybe in Chicago to do it, or some other city, and we're sure that they're going to outsource it. But that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at offshore or nearshore. Offshore is going to mean, again, probably have to deal with different time zones and a very different way of dealing with people. Nearshore might be better. It can be an option. Do you need a country with a common language? That if you need an English-speaking country, then that's going to reduce the or a Spanish-speaking country, that's going to reduce your options. Perhaps it doesn't matter. In finding your outsourcing provider, put Google as your friend. I don't think Google is your friend at all. I would never choose an outsourcing provider based simply on a Google search. I would only really choose an outsourcing provider based on a strong referral. Sorry, everybody. Okay, I'm just going to keep going through here. I hope people can see my slides. I'm told they can't, but
me?
So referrals are your friend. If I wouldn't go to somebody who I can't say I've ever known that they worked with anybody I know. It's going to be a very difficult, you know, difficult to tell whether you're going to get good work or not, how things are going to go. So I would improve my professional network and find somebody who I can work with who's worked with this type of thing before. And finally, maybe small. I mean, maybe projects and work going to be a big issue here. It's going to be very hard to trust somebody that you've never worked with before, especially when they're in geography. So I would suggest starting small and working your way up if possible. Making the outsourcing work. So my advice to making outsourcing work is, one is to give the team a directive, and then to give the team a the dev comes and we expect the team to give us a presentation of everything they've done, and it's a disaster. It's exactly what we did. It's going to mention good interpersonal relations. That is to say, get to know them. Communicate the business goals. I mean, this is something that way too often people just sort of dump the project on the outsourced provider without ever letting them know what they're really doing from a business perspective. And what the keep the expectation. People expect the world sometimes. Development takes the product is not always the first time around. To listen to Drazen earlier, he's absolutely right. Having a common set of communications tools is really going to make the difference. If the outsourcing team or the outsourcing individual is using Slack, and your company is using, there's no happening. Some people are reading email, reading Jira. So, it will take tools to make sure that that's going to be the same for everybody involved. I mean, ideally, the outsource company will use the tool that you're using. But if that's impossible, then perhaps perhaps it'd be possible for your company to start using Slack to communicate with them. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's something to consider. And finally, be kind, because this work, the quality of the work is going to develop based on the relationship. And if you're not being friendly or nice, or that you don't really know them, or they don't know you, or there's some hostility or mistrust there, it's going to make the work suffer. Okay, pitfalls. Okay, pitfalls. Okay, some of the pitfalls that you may run into. So let's start with control. It's going to be very hard to control the day-to-day work, the overall way that the work is happening, the timeline. It's just there's going to be a lot less control. So I think what that means is that the controls that can be put in place that can help is, one is like, how is this going to be billed? If this is going to be billed on straight time, then get timesheets, review time. If this is going to be billed based on a roadmap or deliverables, then you look at the timeline. Let's track the deliverables. Communicate really every day or at least weekly on progress, and make sure that there's somebody who's working for the sponsoring company that's really watching the outsourced developer. Otherwise, it is the control can be lost really quickly, and there may not be really any chance to get the project back. Another pitfall is outsourcing development work is cheaper. Well, if it is, I mean, maybe it isn't cheaper. Maybe outsourcing development work will be far more expensive. I've certainly known people who've gotten $200,000 or $300,000 into a project and gotten no real results, when keeping it in house could have cost a fraction of that price. It can come down to control. Certainly, anybody I think most people who are outsourcing are going to outsource to a less expensive per hour resource to do that. But what are the results, and how are you measuring what the costs are? I never saw that before. I mean, this is Rajneesh was right. If you heard Rajneesh's presentation before this one, the contractual and basic employment mores that you're used to working with may not always stick in an outsourcing environment. You're in a different country. They have different laws. They have different mores. The non-solicitation clause of your contract may really matter. The NDA clause in your contract may not stick there, or may be different there than it is where you are. The basic employment expectations may be something that they're very different than what you're dealing with. Rajneesh told the story that a person can walk away from the job with 1 day's notice. This is absolutely true. I've seen it happen, and they do walk away with all of their information. I've also seen it happen on the other side, where an outsourced developer was fired with no notice at all, on the spot, and this simply never would have happened with a domestic employee, but that's how that goes. So just be prepared for different potential problems. The outsourced developers are people like your own people are people, and they have their own problems, and anything can happen with them, including other employment opportunities or personal problems. Regulatory requirements. If you do have regulatory requirements, especially those in financials or in healthcare, you may want to run this by the compliance officer to see whether the work that they're doing would run afoul of what the regulatory requirements are of the company. I mean, it's I think there's certainly plenty of healthcare and financial services work that's being done by outsourced developers. I don't mean to suggest that it's something that is not possible, but since you are in a regulatory industry, a regulated industry, or if you're in a regulated industry, I would really advise running this work past your compliance officer, and making sure that that everything's kind of happening on the up and up before you get too far into it. And finally, a cybersecurity plan. So what my experience is, a lot of people will work with virtual desktops. I'm not sure that if everyone's doing that. So the virtual desktop would belong to the company. The developer would connect to the virtual desktop and do their work on that. I think that kind of works from a cybersecurity perspective. I think that the developers may feel it kind of makes it difficult for them to do their work, because they may not like the virtual desktop as well as as just being able to work on whatever computer that they're working on. Nevertheless, it's definitely an option, and just in terms of making sure that this arrangement works overall, I'd really go back to what Vladimir said on the very first presentation of the day here. If you're picking an outsourced provider, then you should know really how much referenceable experience they have doing the kind of project that you're doing with companies that are more or less your size, kind of in your vertical, and even possibly in your geography, and then you should try as best as possible to make sure that they're doing the work for you in the same way that they've done this work before, so that they don't have to feel like they're figuring out. The development's hard enough. They shouldn't have to figure out how they're going to get connected to the virtual desktop, or to use the new system. I would advise as much as possible to meet them where they are. Moving on. How to make it successful. Okay, so how to make this successful. So one is I would so to make a outsourcing arrangement successful. Number one, I'd recommend that as the CTO, as a person providing the management oversight for the company for this arrangement, I would recommend daily in-person communication. And I put an in-person and an asterisk there if that's not how people communicate, if they don't do a video conference, if people just simply do some kind of Slack channel meeting or something like that, or a Microsoft Teams channel meeting. If that's how the communication happens, I think that's fine. But it should be a daily thing. It should be very much interpersonal, and following up on the work that's happening with the company to make sure that things aren't falling behind. Item 2 here. As an outsource provider, I just kind of recommend that people that they not be intimidating. It can be very very stressful for those doing the outsource development work, who may have never met who is essentially their employer face to face. It can be very stressful for them to be put on the spot to provide results so quickly. So, and it may be counterproductive to do that. So my recommendation is to go easy with them. So simple, clear expectations with the team, ideally documented, but even when not documented, again, clear, simple, not too situational. Make it easy for them. Number 4, get to know the team, or get to know the team on the other side of the world. They are people as well, and they're going to the quality of their work in some respects is going to reflect what they how hard they want to work for this project. So if they don't know who you are, and they don't know what they're doing or anything about your company, they're probably not going to want to work very hard. I believe it was Drazen who mentioned respect the locale. I completely agree with that. That's very important. Respect their holiday schedule. Respect any other locale specific details they have. You always feel kind of bad when you find out that you gave somebody a deadline, and that was in one of their most a day in their country when everyone just takes it off, their national holiday or whatever. And so they worked all day through it while their family was out on the patio, eating a meal. You feel kind of bad about that. So I would strongly recommend that you get to know that. And finally, be conscious of culture match. And I put an asterisk on that because my experience with culture match has been that I think in this era, I think people from any country can get along with any country. I don't think that that's going to be the issue, but I think what can be the issue is when you have a person in a different locale working with for a dramatically different kind of company than your company. That person may be working as an outsourced developer for a very large company, and may be very used to doing work a specific way, and you may be a very small company, and you may be looking for more of a personal match, somebody who can really kind of understand your ambitions and your company's mission and what you're trying to do. That may not be a good culture match. Perhaps you should have selected a small outsourced developer rather than a large one.